Welcome to Talk to CS News. Here we showcase voices behind intervention stories and we amplify matters that would concern you. Talk to CS News is a weekly program and it is produced by CS News Media in partnership with Civic Media Lab, which is an initiative of Sahara Reporters Media Foundation. I am Wemimo Adewini. It's my pleasure to welcome you, and today we'll be talking about OGP. What is OGP? After this very short break, I'll tell you some more. Welcome back to Talk to CS News. I told you earlier today we're talking about OGP, and that's Open Government Partnership. This is a platform for government and civil society organizations, other stakeholders interested in working together to make governments more accountable. Well, Nigeria is also part of OGP, and we'll be looking at the progress OGP has gotten in Nigeria and how that affects you. Now, I have with me in the studio today Abayomi Akimbo. He's a national coordinator for Open Alliance. Thank you for joining me. Now, could you tell us how you'd explain OGP to a layman who would like to understand what it is?
Okay, so the idea behind the Open Government Partnership, the OGP, is to make government more accountable to the citizens. And that way government can be responsive and the citizens can understand what government is doing. You know, before 1999, we had this era of military, and then people didn't know what the government was doing. If you ask questions, you'd probably be shot and things like that. Journalists found it very hard to get information from government. So Open Government Partnership now realizes that government and civil society and citizens need to come to the same platform, the same table, and have a conversation. So the government and the civil society, which also includes the private sector, now have an equal partnership to engage on issues that they can work on, commitments that they can actually work on to improve service delivery. The end goal of it is to improve service delivery actually, and then also to ensure that we reduce corruption in society. And that is the overall objective of the Open Government Partnership. And if I want to explain to the layman person, the way to see it is that you are making life easier. Government commits to something that they want to do, a project or a reform policy. Nobody is forcing the government to do it, and they ensure that they go ahead to do it. But the government doesn't do it alone. It has to do it with the civil society. So it's not like the government is calling civil society, okay, come on, join us. But the civil society and the government says, oh, let's do this together. Let's work together to ensure that we do this. And while we're doing this, to make sure that the life of that woman that is selling maize on the road is better. If she knows how government is going to spend the money to build the road that she's going to be selling corn on, it's going to make it easier for her to transport her goods to that particular area and get things done. So there are different areas, there are different commitments that are under the Open Government Partnership that each government, each country can actually work on.
From 2014 to 2018, that's 4 years in between, how would you rate Nigeria's achievements in terms of reaching out to that woman on the streets, as I mentioned earlier?
In 2012, the conversation started with some civil society organizations, but that was it. Nigeria didn't make the eligibility criteria, which was about 4, which was out of 100%, you must have at least 75%. Then in 2014, Nigeria was eligible. Now, civil society organizations like Budget, MRA, Media Rights Agenda, Public Procurement, Public and Private Development Center, and other organizations decided to come together to now advocate and talk to the Nigerian government that, see, this is the Open Government Partnership. A very good initiative. It is not a national initiative, it's an international initiative. And it's at will. It's not like you're being forced to do it. So if we join this, the government and the civil society can actually work together for once. You know, it's always this way that government sees civil society as anti-government. But in this case, it's not going to be you're seeing us as anti-government, but we are working together and we have to understand that partnership. So in 2014, we were eligible. So advocacy started by these organizations. These organizations now went on to form the Open Alliance Nigeria. So a coalition of civil society organizations working on open government initiative. So Nigeria, they actually joined the Open Government Partnership until 2016. If you remember, in May 2016, the President Muhammad Buhari, went to London for the anti-corruption summit, and then that was when he declared that Nigeria will be joining the Open Government Partnership. And before then, civil society organizations already started engaging, the Open Alliance already started engaging and said, okay, this is the step to take if you're going to join the Open Government Partnership. And then we realized that the Buhari administration has an anti-corruption agenda.
Yes.
And then the Open Government Partnership also falls in that line. So why not just bring everything together to achieve a common goal? So they started the process. In May, the president talked about it, declared. In June, through the Office of the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice, Nigeria sent a letter of intent to the OGP Global Secretariat. And then that was how Nigeria declared its intention. Then in December 2016, in Paris, Nigeria submitted its first National Action Plan. Now, this National Action Plan is the document that contains the commitments and what each nation is supposed to do within a period of 2 years. So we submitted in December 2016 in Paris, and then that means the implementation of the National Action Plan is supposed to run between January 2017 to 2019. So right now, we just finished the first year of the National Action Plan. So we are still in the second year. So we've not actually gone, we've actually done 4 years. It's just a year, and we're already chipping into the second year of the National.
The layman on the road, how would you feel the impact of this National Action Plan? Do you think that it boils down to tangible things we can see? And within how many years could we begin to see physical impact of this plan?
The first thing to know is to understand what the goal and the objective of each commitment is going to be. Let me give you an example. So, you know how the issue around contracting is in Nigeria, where we have talked about corruption, and then people don't know how contracts are awarded to people. So there's a particular commitment under the fiscal transparency that is around open contracting. So the idea is for Bureau of Public Procurement and other CSOs working on open contracting to come together and develop strategies, ways that we can make contracting more open to people. So now people know who is getting what, how the bidding process is going to be. There's a platform that's being built right called Nokopo. It's already online, and the Bureau of Public Procurement and the PPDs and other organizations are training MDAs on how to use it. So the idea is that when it comes to open contracting, it is open that people know what contracts are being awarded and who is getting it. So on the long run, you know, the issue of contracting around Nigeria that we don't know, it's going to reduce. So that is if it's fully implemented. Another one is the open budgeting. You know, the issue around budget, you have organizations like Budget trying to open up the budget to people, and then you have some states still struggling to open up to people. You have the federal still struggling. So with this one, it's going to bring the government side and civil society side together and say, okay, you don't have to run from us. We are not running from you. Let's think about what to do. How do we make this budget open to people? How much? So when the budget is being open, people know that they know how much is going to be spent. They know what is going to be used for. So it's about remember I said something about being accountable and responsive. So the government has to be accountable and responsive. So at the end of the day, it's going to make public funds judiciously utilized. And one other thing that is being done right now, if you recall, the $321 million repatriation, asset recovery. So that's also one of the commitments of the Open Government Partnership. So through the intervention and the workings of the Federal Minister of Justice and the OGP Secretariat and other CSOs, so it's been that this particular fund is now back in Nigeria according to the recent information. So you can imagine if we have this money back in Nigeria, the project we can actually do it with accountability, of course, because it's very important there is accountability. How
transparent and how ready is Nigeria really for this plan? I mean, it's easy to have its plans on paper, a lot of smooth talk, but in implementation, are we really ready to launch into this next phase of accountability? Do you think the Nigerian government is transparent enough to go through this plan?
If you join the Open Government Partnership, you need to understand that you have to respect the principles of the Open Government Partnership. And that's the fact that your commitment must be actionable, realistic, and you have to make sure that you do that within the space of 2 years. So within the space of 2 years, that means you must still have the political will to do it for another year.
All right. There are 4 focus areas for Open Alliance, and that's fiscal transparency, citizen engagement, access to information, and anti-corruption. And we would both agree that there's a mistrust between the citizens and the government in Nigeria. So let's talk about citizen engagement. Okay. How do you think the government, of course working together with CSOs, can create an active citizenry that can openly ask questions and get answers?
There are commitments. There are about 3 commitments under the citizen engagement. When you know it's citizen engagement, it's continuous. So we can't actually see everything at once, the full picture. One of the ways that we have thought the government of Nigeria, citizens and civil society can actually engage people is, we have the media where the government is doing it, so, and then you have civil society doing it. So, but there has to be other platforms for people who are not even on social media. So you're talking about town hall engagement. So in the National Action Plan, there is a commitment on town hall engagement, on how to engage people, on discussing the issues around fiscal transparency, like you mentioned, all the other 3 thematic areas with the people, discussing this with the people to ensure that they understand what the government is doing. There is still more to do. I am going to be very clear about that. There is more to do, and one of the reasons why this open government partnership is good is that it is the first initiative that will bring the government and the civil society on the same platform to talk about issues and ensure that they do something. So there's still more to do on the civil society side, and the civil society is pushing that the government understands what it has signed on to. So it's not going to be because of a political score. It's going to be at the end of the day because you want to do things to change the lives of the people. And the people have asked that, okay, once the administration changes, is it going to affect things? One of the things is that I would personally say people shouldn't worry about that. Because
why is that? Why are you so certain?
I believe the civil society in Nigeria is vibrant. And if you look at it, the civil society has been able to actually engage government on issues that they feel would affect the people. You've had bills that are anti-democratic that civil society has come into to actually discuss and step it down. And with the way civil society is structured, as long as the government is very sure that it tries to understand what the democratic rules are, which is not eroding the independence of the civil society, I believe we can do a lot more to hold the government accountable.
I've been speaking with Abayomi Akimbo, is the National Coordinator for Open Alliance. You can see you have a lot to do yourself. Engage the government, ask questions, and be more responsive.